I'm just not into canned drum beats. Canned drum beats offend me.
There's another title.
You know what you do? I can just push this button and, you can go home. 30 years of learning an instrument and you can just go home because I get this button that just goes. But at the same time, that's fine. That's just my viewpoint. Nobody gives a shit what I think anyway. And, obviously a million kids love the shit out of EDM. And I'm the old fart sitting here like, if I hear that fucking hi-hat cicada thing one more time, I'm going to fucking puke. Yeah.
Are you referring to trap beats? Are you talking about trap beats?
Cicada thing?
I mean, I like trap beats if there's a fucking drummer playing them, but it's not. It's a fucking... I'm like...
What about drum pads, like a drummer playing an electronic drum pad? How do you feel about that?
That's fine. You're giving a drummer work.
Hello and welcome to another episode of 2020'd. I'm Siobhán Cronin here as always with Benny and Cory, and we are back for part 2 with our dear friend Lost Symphony bandmate Paul Lourenco. We kind of got him amped up by the end of part 1, so we're going to jump right into all of his opinions on everything to do with wedding bands, corporate bands, playing with people. We kind of jumped right into it in this one.
His opinion on DJs is it's a very strong opinion on DJs.
I like to show people in real time how I like to trigger Paul to get elicit the best drumming and artwork out of him. Like, because you have to realize to get Paul to be at his greatest, you have to trigger him like DJs do.
Yes. So prepare to get triggered here on part 2 with Paul Lourenco on 2020'd. Hello, welcome to another episode of 2020. My name is Cory here, as always, with Siobhán and Ben, and we are super pumped to welcome back for part 2, for the second time, so third episode, Mr. Paul Lourenco of Lost Symphony, Bloodline Theory, and many other musical projects. What's up, Paul? Hi, Paul.
Hey.
That's
Hello,
where you
Paul.
speak.
Well, before we lose our energy, so we ended part 1 getting amped up about talking about playing in wedding bands, corporate stuff, what it's like to be an MC entertainer, and Paul was getting all fired up about the shit that happens that he does not like.
Let's start with this. Paul, so how do you feel about when the singer, let's say, who doesn't play an instrument, or singers decide to, let's say, feel out the crowd and let's say go against the set list that you've neatly organized in tandem with your iPad and your BPM machine, metronome or something. How do you feel about it when they change it based on the Karens in the first 7 rows?
I'm not throwing any shade at anybody. I'm just saying that, it happens a lot. It's not.
I'm asking how you feel
not
about
just
it.
A particular singer or anything like that, but there's a lot of times when it's like, just throwing songs out there, and it's fine. And I'm not in as bad of a position as, say, a keyboard player would be, because like I said, I just have to find the tempo and get it to the tempo. And to be honest, if I don't get it to the tempo, it's not the end of the world. The keyboard player, on the other hand, if they don't get the patches right for whatever parts they're playing, if they're playing piano instead of synthesizer, it's a little rough. And there's a certain organization that goes to getting the set list, in a certain order, and everybody on the same page. And when you jump away from that, it's just more of that dead time that you don't want.
Weird you said that, because I was thinking to myself, does that work? Hold on.
It's just,
Ben, we can't hear your piano at all. Irrelevant.
Yeah. I was playing Jump on the piano.
But yeah, it's just tough to keep the set list rolling like that. And it's like, it's an either or sort of thing. It's like, you can either keep the set rolling, or you can feel out the crowd and try to throw in a song randomly here or there. But then it's even after that song, it's like, well, now where are we? Are we going back to the set list, or are we throwing out another song? What's the plan?
Yeah, in my experience, I've learned a lot about communication and keeping things going from some of a lot of the luxury sort of high end wedding bands, that so many of them will have either the kind of a music director, like the keyboard player, or the drummer that'll have a talk back the whole time. And a lot of times, if there's a lull, he's like, all right, we're going to do a groove in this key with the bass, whatever, keep it going. And he's talking, and I'm amazed because this, whoever it is playing and talking and directing the whole time for 4, 5, 6 hours. So in terms of your communication, are you guys just kind of communicating, just yelling across the stage, or
Yeah, it's mostly
making
just kinda
signals.
like turning around and going around to, or sometimes they'll have like iPads with set lyrics and stuff like that on there. They've even typed things out and kind of been like, hey, what's next? Which at least I can understand that. That's probably
what'd be cool?
That's probably comes from me like not understanding what they're saying when they turn around and they're like,
I feel like I have a Shark Tank idea.
I'm like,
Hold on. Did I mute myself? Or did
No,
Cory
we hear
mute
you.
me?
What's your Shark
No, we're
Tank
just
idea?
talking over you.
My Shark Tank idea is, why don't we get these things you can implant in your head, right? Like these chips, and that every single time that, like, let's say Karen is marrying Karen, right? And she wants like a set list. Paul can let Karen get into his mental IP address. And then
I think Elon Musk has already invented that, and
that he
it's
can
already been
basically
embedded in your
download the
brain.
essence.
I thought Starset invented that with the 3 dots on their heads.
Yeah,
Isn't that-
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, the question is, who did it
Dustin's
first?
already figured it out. So
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we already
Come
know
to our
Dustin's
shows.
behind ABBA.
once we can communicate telepathically, the improv jams are gonna improve.
improv's
That would
going to
be nice.
improve. Yeah.
No, but in a practical sense, the one cool thing, I mean, not to talk about products because we're not officially sponsored by anyone, but for string players, we use this app called Fourscore. And what you can do is you can actually like link, but FOR score.
And I thought you said whore.
But it's it's for putting PDFs into set lists and things like that, and you can link these things together with pedals, and you could actually trigger all the iPads to change to the song or the piece that you're doing. So I don't know if that would be helpful for you guys, but somebody could just tap a pedal or cue it up, and it's going to show up on everybody else's because you're all linked together, and that's another way you can communicate
new song
silently.
So they changed the set
That way, at
list.
least, like, ahead of the time for the song, you would be able to be like, okay, this is the song that's coming next. Like the keyboard player would be able to be like, okay, I got to switch over to this song after the song. But it's just a matter of when it's all done on the fly like that, it's hard to like scramble and.
Yeah.
What are your favorite things that people say to you at gigs? Like good and bad. Like what are your, because I know you like quotes. Like give me some quotes of like good and bad patrons to either club gigs or weddings that like made you do a double take.
I don't know. I don't talk to people a lot.
That's the glory of being a drummer.
Yeah, I talk to my band. My singer, I'm sure, would have a million of them, but I just let them deal with the people. I just kind of hang out in the back of my drums.
Well, I'll say as a violinist, as somebody that plays so many different things, everybody asks for Devil Went Down to Georgia. Literally everybody. That's the first thing across the board that everyone asks for.
I actually had the chance to open for Charlie Daniels like a couple of years back, and it was the craziest, coolest experience. That guy absolutely shredded. Came out and he literally. So at the time he was, I don't know, he passed away. Like shortly after the show. So he was 80. He was like 82 or 83. I don't remember what it was, but
amazing.
The guys come out rocking out. His band is ridiculous. And halfway through the set, he goes backstage and takes a nap. Or he left the stage for a solid 20, 30 minutes, and his band just took over. And no one, you didn't miss it, except I was side stage, so I watched him kind of walk back, and I'm like, he's gonna take a song off, and nope, his band stepped up, absolutely kept the crowd super engaged, and then he came out and they did Devil Went Down to Georgia, and you want to see a bunch of middle to much older age people rock the fuck out. You watch Charlie Daniels play Devil Went Down to Georgia. And this was at a campground, Indian Ranch venue. So everyone that was at the show, this is at 3 p.m, was staying there. So they're hammered. And then, he comes out and plays Devil Went Down to Georgia, and I've never seen a more rowdy crowd.
Oh, people love it. Yeah, that's definitely a hit.
Yeah, I think we need to do a Lost Symphony cover and make it super orchestral.
Make it metal.
And amazing. Yeah.
Hold on, but wait. I have to say that we did see a pretty damn rowdy crowd where I actually had to calm myself and say, is this really happening? Because we had Cody Ash, another drummer, on the show, and he said, come see Jellyroll. And Cory and I are just like, what band is that? No. Not knowing that this dude's on the rock charts, the rap charts, the fucking country charts, simultaneously has face tattoos, is married to some hot podcaster chick that everyone knows also. And when we went to the Palladium, which Cory and I have been going to since the dawn of time, other than when I've seen like maybe Rob Zombie on his first tour, or like, you know, really, really fucking high level like metal bands back in the day. That place was packed. It looked like it was going to fall apart. Like there were people passing like Hennessy and Cavassier bottles around in front of the stage as they're smoking like thumb-sized blunts, like with these 7-foot dudes like walking around like, don't fuck with me. It was outrageous. I just wanted to say that I was schooled that was like the devil went down to Georgia. Cory and I going to see the Jellyroll band was definitely an eye-opening experience as far as holy fuck, that guy gets people to like go out of their minds.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. But, you know, same thing coming back to it's entertainment. You know, there's music is one level, but everything that you do has to be entertaining. And it's, you know, even with the wedding bands, it's like the amount of movement you have to do for it to come across, you know, whether same with doing videos, you know, you have to like overdo everything and really, really nail it. And some of the best musicians and performers I've ever played with have been in like corporate wedding bands because they just like can
energy
convert
transfers
from one. Yeah.
Well, to be, and the thing is, well, just to be completely, before you go there, to be completely honest, you can make sometimes way more money being in a corporate wedding band than you can be being a rock star. Like,
oh yeah, you think we make money doing this? No.
It's like if anyone out there, like I know sometimes we forget because we're all somewhat in some sort of level of the industry. Some of us are higher than others, Siobhán. But like to know, like you see like the old guy that with like wearing a suit to the gig, and you're like, oh, that guy's poor guy. He got stuck with being in a wedding band, and like he drives like the sickest car because every corporate gig and wedding gig pays more than you could freaking imagine. It's just like the you don't really know what to expect in the music industry. There's so many different avenues to success.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, and Cory can speak to this too, because Cory used to be my sidekick when I'd go DJ weddings. And first off, I'd go make like $6 or $9 grand in a weekend. Like it was stupid amounts of money. Like Cory could tell you, he got Paul, even when I dragged him down to play some gigs with me, he got paid like $500 one time to like, I think play like 2 songs. And then he's like, can I just go? I'm like, yeah, just go. Like we literally got paid. Like, but when you're going in at it, and this is what I wanted to say, it's energy transfers. So if I'm behind there playing like, you know, Party in the USA, and I'm not dancing like Miley Cyrus is my favorite, like nobody, like people look at you like you're crazy. So like whether
people looked
dancing,
at you like you were crazy when you danced, regardless.
But that's because for 4 hours I did not stop moving, and that's the thing, is that like people might think I'm nuts because they think I'm on cocaine or whatever. But like we used to kick people out of weddings. Cory knows this. Like we had like a wham bam slam at the end of the night where we had this like the trick where we like go like a little bit into Ed Sheeran, but then it's like, what's my age again by Blink-182 for all the rockers, but then something that like Usher, yeah, where like nobody could be upset, and then like the parents are like, what's this? And then it's Sweet Caroline, it's over. You know, and that's you have to end it like a Guns N' Roses show. And you have to do it the right times. You're like, oh, psych, triple psych. And we dance the whole time.
Yeah, and like any other job, 90% of having fun is who you're working with too. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like you guys did it together and you had fun because you had somebody to hang out with and shoot the shit. And I'm sure you have a million stories. It's the same with cover bands. You know, it's like everybody's awesome, and we, you know, have all these stories of the, you know, different gigs and different weird people that we've met along the way.
Yeah, the tried and true rule is, you know, the triangle. It's like good hang, good pay, good gig. If you have 2 of those, it's worth it. Doesn't matter if I, you know, get paid a ton of money and I'm hanging out with my friends, even if the music sucks, who cares? Right. And same thing, you know, maybe I don't get paid any money, but I'm playing in front of like, you know, 50,000 people with my friends. Like that, as long as you got 2 sides of that triangle, it's a pretty sweet life. Although making money
Cindy
is also
says,
pretty good.
If I actually, funny story that you say that, because I keep telling Cindy I'm in the Apocalypse Blues revival, and she doesn't really believe that. So like I'm backstage at Godsmack with Shannon, and I keep telling her, I'm like, Cindy, like you don't understand, like Godsmack's huge. Like if I go play in that band, it's not like being in most normal bands. Shannon would never play in a normal band. So Shannon starts telling me his plan because he's a visionary. I mean, you know Shannon. He's another guy that it's like
definitely
wow,
sees
like
visions.
He's a super hyper intelligent guy that has like a very clear cut thing of what he likes. But like, you know, he looks at Cindy. He's like, well, we're going to fly Ben to Florida and we're going to pay him to play keyboards for 3 weeks. We're going to get Dave Fortman, who's the hit maker. Cindy, check this out. You could come down too. It's going to be great. And look, if we tour with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, we may only get $1,000 a night. But like, look, I'm going to do this Godsmack thing. I'm going to put some money aside because we're going to go on a bus. We're going to make sure we get showers where we need to get showers. Like, well, we can't live like that because he can't live like that. So even though I might be in... And by the way, Apocalypse Blues Revival, amazing band, and I'm so excited to be in it. But like, we may be a lower stature band in the sense of the pecking order, but because our drummer happens to be in like the second biggest band according to the Billboard charts in the history of time, Godsmack, you know, that band from Boston as well, I'll never have to know what a van looks like.
What was the point of all of that?
That's what I said when I looked back at Cindy.
Yeah, I don't know where we are now. But one thing I want to get back to is, Paul, you've been doing this a long time. You've been in the music business for a very long time. And so we talked, you know, a little bit last week about how you could basically write a book on all the, you know, the techniques to like have a good show. But what are some other things that you've experienced and maybe have become kind of cliches that you know, want to put out into the universe to have stop happening? What are Paul's pet peeves in the music business here?
I mean, there's always when you show up and there's like, you know, people eating dinner on the stage and they're like through the main course, you know, it's like 3 or 4 parties on the stage area and you gotta wait. And like, you know, you got your shit in your car and then you slowly take it out of your car and pile it up in front of the door. You're just like standing there staring at the people, you know. Yeah, there's a couple of venues in Boston that would definitely always seem to happen at.
Yeah, because they don't want to lose the money of like the paying customers there. So they like there's that battle between like whoever the booking guy is and the manager of the restaurant's like, yeah, I'm not kicking those people out. They're buying like, you know, this really nice wine and you know,
another round. We get the dessert menu, you know. Yeah, so that's definitely one.
Are you ever dealing with like coordinators or planners? Like one thing I'll say that kind of peeves me every once in a while is I'll play for, you know, a company that has the wedding band or whatever, and there's always some person that's like the intermediary that isn't quite a musician but isn't quite the owner, and they're trying to micromanage everything, and they're saying, oh, we got to rehearse all this music. I'm like, I can sight read this while
Cory
sleeping.
can tell you this. There's been planners that have come up to us and after someone had a first dance been like, we should do a second first dance and have everyone come to the floor and just decide to do stuff like that. And I've had to literally say like, you're out of your fucking mind to people because like, or people that don't cue you when the bride's supposed to be walking out because you're at a venue that's so convoluted that it's like you're at a castle and someone's across the moat and you're just like have to like, someone has to give you the eye contact and you're like, and all of a sudden you just see a girl in a flowing dress and you're not playing the first 7 minutes of Disco Inferno like she asked, and you're just because the coordinator is literally on their phone texting with their back to people, and then she's the one yelling at you later. It's like, what?
I'll say the first step I always take at a wedding if I'm doing any sort of ceremony is I find whoever is responsible for the ceremony and I say, hi, I'm the musician guy. I need to play the right song when the person's coming down here. This is my face. Now I see your face. Like, let's make sure that doesn't get screwed up because having done so many weddings and having screwed up so many ceremonies, not always of my particular fault, but more of like Ben said, the wedding planner's got a million things in their mind. So they're just like, all right, ceremony's starting, let's go. And looking around, everyone's, you know, we're sitting there playing our background music or something, and the bridesmaids are standing there awkwardly. It's just, communication is important, I guess, would be.
I remember exactly. We were in Newport, Rhode Island, Cory and I on the water, and we were supposed to play 1,000 years. And you tell people, like, listen, how long is your party? And like we can go for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, but like it gets long. So you say, do you want another song or whatever? But we just have to what they call vamp it in the music industry, where you just kind of repeat the things over and over and over. I think Cory and I played like an 11.5-minute version of 1,000 Years from like fucking Twilight. And we kept going up and down because first off, they cued us like a million times too early. Like, the girl actually did cue us, but they weren't ready because the bride clearly had like a problem with their shoe or something and didn't tell anyone. And then like grandma and grandpa, like times 7, like on both sides, like take
just
5 hours.
knowing how long the walk is important. Like sometimes the coordinator won't tell us, like, oh, they're actually coming from, a quarter mile back because they want to like walk through a field or something. It's like, all right, well, that song is going to not be long enough to get the first person to the thing. The Newport gig you're talking about, Ben, I think it reminded me of the time we were there and we had to do Canon in D, which is a pretty standard
the
wedding
bane
song.
of all of our existence.
And you know what? Like we talked about, I can find the fun in that. Being like, well, Ben's doing the chords, I'm doing the lead. It's a fun guitar lick,
So
and
people don't know what that is because not everyone does. Now you know the song.
Yeah,
Canon
exactly.
and D.
And funny enough, you sang it at that tempo because that's the tempo you started the song at as the person started to walk. I'm like, all right, let's go. And he starts playing double time chords over Canon and D. and the thing is, those chords sound great until the lead comes in, and I have to go and then you want to talk about like Devil Went Down to Georgia, but at a wedding, and then we gotta now mentally communicate to each other while I swear with no words to Ben, like, you're playing this incredibly fast in front of.
I'm guessing innocently looking at him like, I am. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm guessing
because the difference between when I play real shows and like weddings, which I'm actually being paid for, is I don't give a fuck at a wedding. So I'm just like, oh,
that's terrible.
Right. Yeah. So I'll look at Cory. He's like,
it's okay. He doesn't do them anymore. Don't worry about his reviews.
Oh, dude, I've won the best of the not 4 times.
Despite your best efforts. But yeah, so like there's things like that where Paul, have you said you play to a click now, but have there been any situations where you are waiting for a guitarist or someone to start a song and they start at a tempo that's absolutely horrendous?
Yeah, I mean that's happened before. Usually the guys that I play with are pretty on top of it, but occasionally with new songs and stuff, I just try to like bump it up as quick as I can. Sometimes I'll just jump in at the tempo and everybody's going to hop on board.
Just get on the train.
Everybody I play with is good with staying in time with the drummer. I mean, it's tough. I've jammed with people that, they're just kind of on their own timeline. Whatever the drums are doing, they're totally separate, and they're just like, yep, this is where I'm going.
We'll see ya.
There's a few songs that I've found in multiple bands I've played with that are never played correctly or never at least started correctly. There's a Kings of Leon song that it might be like Sex on Fire.
Sex
or something,
is on Fire.
That I've never heard a band start correctly because it's got like an upbeat kind of like and the band always messes up the first like 4 bars when everyone comes in until they look around at each other and they go, wait, where are we? Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to play that song. That one was one of those songs that everybody seems to get wrong, and when the way it comes in is just like kind of.
Let me ask you this, Paul, because
Yeah.
you probably heard this a million times and been in a million cover bands. How do you feel about people not playing the solo to any, let's say Paradise City or Sweet Child of Mine?
Well, it depends on the song, really. But yeah, Sweet Child of Mine is one of those songs that you kind of got to play the solo, like at least close enough to where you can tell where you are in the song, because it's like there's so many lead sections. It's just like if you don't play the right one, you're going to throw off everybody else in the band, and probably everybody in the crowd too that knows how the song goes. I mean, there's certain, you can throw in little runs here and there and change up things, and it doesn't have to be note for note, but you got to know where you are in the song. And there's, like I said, there's different songs that are different. Like Superstition, you can just play a wanking lead for like, 8, 12, 16 measures, whatever you want. But like certain songs like, Jesse's Girl or something, you got to play that solo how it's supposed to be. Or like Hit Me With Your Best Shot, that's a good one. You got to be in the ballpark to where everybody knows what's going on. So, and it's the same for the drums too. Like I don't really learn everything note for note or anything. I just kind of get the general idea and the beat, and then any like things that line up with other people, I always ask where are the stops, because that's my main concern with the drums.
Right.
If there are no stops, I'm just, oh, awesome. I just fucking go until the song ends. Somebody looks at me and says, hey, end of song. Yeah.
Well, that's what sold me on Cory's cover band, was because I went and saw them, and they played, I think it was Sweet Child of Mine or Paradise City, one of those two. And I was like, it was the first time I'd ever seen a cover band like actually nail the solos. And
Are you talking
I
about
was like,
Backstage Pass?
Backstage Pass, dude.
Oh, yeah. That's more of a tribute, so we tried to be more accurate. I don't do anything accurately anymore.
You don't ever see people fucking, like, Sweet Child of Mine is Jedi level guitar playing. Like, you're Slash at his best. And he doesn't play his solos anything like he actually wrote it, because he's Slash, so he can do whatever he wants. So technically, if you're that level good, to play that, you can play whatever you want as long as you embody that. But that's what sold me on Cory's Backstage Pass band. Because
we
I
also
was like,
wore
holy
spandex
shit.
and wigs. I should point that out at the point. So.
Because it was so seriously done. It's kind of like that Steel Panther thing. Like, because
wouldn't call it serious.
Who we've had on the band. Well, right, but who we've had on the show. But your musical skills and your appreciation for what you're doing is very serious. It's based in a total deep passion, because you as a man would not be buying spandex and wearing patent leather if you didn't have a deep-rooted appreciation for the music, a reverence for the music that you have.
Very true.
Reverence. Well, let me ask you this, going back to the business side a little bit, when it comes to booking gigs or getting discovered, because I'm sure, you're somebody that wants to book a band for your wedding or whatever, you're going to go online, try and find something. How are you getting found? Are you guys creating some promotional materials, or do you have a website? Like, how did you build the business side of it to get to booking gigs?
Yeah, we kind of built up the band to a certain point, and then we started working with an agency out of Boston that does most of our bookings. So now it's kind of like a lot of stuff just comes our way and stuff, and we get the occasional thing that comes along from clubs and stuff on the side too, and so it depends, but a lot of what we do is through the agency, which is nice.
And have you had to do any sort of recordings? Like did people ever ask you for audio samples or video or something like that?
We had a photographer come out last week and do some photos, and we're going to throw together some videos and stuff. And it's tough because they always want whatever you don't have. It's like,
of course, yeah.
We worked on this really like slick pro video that was like shot in a studio and had like pre-recorded tracks. And then, of course, they want live videos. And then if you show them a live video, they're like, oh, do you have anything that sounds better? And it's like, well, it's a live video, so it doesn't sound great. So it's like now we're working on getting something that like, has footage from our live gigs mixed with footage, like audio from our live gigs.
Cleaner audio, yeah.
Cleaner and, more produced and, EQ'd and mastered, whatever, all that jazz. So that we'll have something a little bit more like, slick. Hopefully,
yeah.
Here, we'll get more gigs with it. We're on their website, so it's just kind of like if you look up All Night or Up All Night Band Boston, it'll send you to their website and has all the info. But yeah.
Now, in my experience, that's been a huge thing. I mean, it's the second you have a video that's even the slightest bit close to what people want, they will book you so much faster than anything else. And it doesn't matter what your resume is. It's like they just want to see exactly what they want to have.
Siobhán, that's 100% how I got all my gigs. I had Cory make a video of me, and like if you go and look at like a lot of, it's crazy. Like the highest when I actually dug into the marketing in Boston, and I found the highest rated wedding DJs. Like some of these guys had 17-minute videos where they showed the entire uncomfortable ceremony of somebody. Like they had no business. Like maybe they said they could, but it's uncomfortable. Like I was like, Cory, there's no competition as far as marketing. He made this slick thing where I'm just like, here's how I'm gonna DJ your wedding. This is what I think about DJing. This is what I'm going to do for you. Basically, the first 5 questions people ask.
So, and the trick was to go through, several dozen weddings and find the 30 seconds that people were having a really good time. I used that footage, and then I just slammed it over bright flashing lights. And I was kidding.
No, but it's kind of true, because the thing is that people used to hit me up and they're like, oh, it's so professional. But the thing is, it's like I am professional, and the thing that was awesome was that Cory actually, we had footage, and you see some of this footage people were moshing to to the Killers, Mr. Brightside. There's one gig we went to. There was like I think it was Mr. Brightside into Stacy's mom or something. Like and they went so bananas. Like the bride and groom are actually crowd surfing, and like we have video of that. So like
fucking millennials.
Yeah, so you see these videos of like my band's playing, and it's just like a bunch of old people. My mom going, "Yay, band!" Like. I DJ, it's not hard for Cory to get behind me at these beautiful venues that are at like fucking antique mansions or like on the water of Newport, Rhode Island, or in a museum. Like we did.
I like how you're still trying to sell yourself even though you don't DJ anymore. You're like,
no, but we did.
You never know.
We did a party at the Harvard Club or whatever, or at the Harvard Art Museum or something like that. And there's like Monets and Van Goghs in the rooms that I'm like spinning in, and I'm like, oh, this is bougie. It's like I feel like Groucho Marx. I don't want to be invited to any place that'll have me as a member. You know what I mean? Like that's how we were. Like you go to the Mandarin Oriental in Boston, that place is psychotically strict. They tell you as a vendor you're not allowed to pee in their bathrooms, which is why I always wore diamonds and really expensive watches, because I peed in every one of their bathrooms and stole the fucking mints. True story.
No, but generally you get a lot of comforts as like compared to touring with your original band, let's say. I mean, some of these corporate gigs are great. You know, you go, there's full hospitality, you have a full dressing room, access to so many things. So I mean, a lot of them are great gigs.
I'm sorry, I have to tell you this one more story because Alicia is a good friend of ours. I went to the House of Blues. The first times I ever played the House of Blues Boston, which used to be Avalon, which I did play, and Roxy, which I did play.
And there was a band that was sound checking, and you told them that they were doing something wrong.
No. Here's what's the most important thing. So they had a corporate party. Yeah, fuck the band. They had a corporate party, and there was a band, but the green room said DJ Benny Goodman. And I realized that I had fucking made it in life. And I got to go play.
But now
the
you don't
stage.
DJ anymore.
Because it said DJ before your name? You made it in life because it said DJ?
No, because I had the green room at the House of Blues. And I got chocolate milk for free from the refrigerator that's usually locked.
Yeah, but you had DJ before your name. That's terrible. What's wrong with you? That's a failure for you as a musician.
You should put DJ at the end of your name so it sounds like some sort of degree.
It's an homage to Full House DJ Tanner.
You press a button and point my finger.
You're just a tracer. You'll always be a tracer, Paul.
Can wear diamond watches and piss in exclusive bathrooms.
Well, dude, but that's what it is. Well, that's the joke. Cory said it. Like, that you show up in a nice car. I used to show up to Guitar Center with, like, PRSs and fucking Gibsons, and they'd be like, what band are you in? I'm like, bro, I'm a DJ.
I can't actually play any of these.
How disappointing.
It's so disappointing, dude.
Your mother must be disappointed.
She's been disappointed since 1987.
It's pretty wild. Like
piano lessons.
Oh, well, the piano helps with producing. But yeah, I mean, speaking of DJs, though, it's like I played at Ultra this year and a couple other electronic music festivals. And yeah, I was totally blown away by how much money these guys are making. I mean, headliners like $500,000, $1 million. And like the set, sometimes they don't even play their full set. They're like, all right, I'm going to go on late 45 minutes, tons of fireworks and lights, going to hype myself up for the shit that I recorded and then get the fuck out. And it's crazy. I mean,
dude, I'll tell you, I saw this because as a DJ, I mean, I've opened for a lot of huge DJs, and like a guy like Avicii. Okay, when he was around, he played the Boston Garden, and I think he got like $275, so $275,000. Sold out the Boston Garden, played for like I want to say an hour and 17 minutes. I know this because he then took a bus directly to the Ocean Club, which is in Quincy, Massachusetts, on the water, and it's also like a huge giant rave club, and. People had to pay like $100. I think it was $150 at the door or whatever, maybe $75 ahead of time. Like, welcome to like marketing. and it was sold out. And by the time he got there was only so much left because Quincy's really a very expensive place to live. So there's noise ordinances. So he can only DJ for like 34 or 35 minutes. And then he got paid like, I want to say $150,000 more. So the guy got paid like $400,000 to basically DJ for like 2 hours and 10 minutes. And the irony is, I believe he went and like DJ'd some after hours party the next night for free at some bullshit club in Cambridge.
Yeah.
And it's just like, the promoters, I remember hearing like, what the fuck? We paid him to play for 34 minutes, got him like 17 bottles of Moet or Shandon, and like this fucker goes and plays like Felt at like 5 a.m. for everybody.
It's pretty crazy. I've if you look on the internet, you can find rate sheets, especially for booking agencies, and booking agents will have like these PDFs with their artists, from their biggest artists down to anyone, and it is sometimes absolutely insane, especially like it's very common for $1 million plus for a single like a DJ or someone to get onto stage and make $1 million for their 2-hour set, where then you have a band who's arguably bigger make 50,000 or 100,000 maybe.
Well, that's the actual number. Cascade at XS in Vegas, when I went and saw him like maybe 9-10 years ago, he was getting paid $500,000 a show twice a night. It was like $150, $200 or something just to get into this crazy place. And he pays $100,000 to his manager. So he was making $800,000 a night and his manager was making $200,000. And just so you know, they don't have to bring any equipment. They just show up with like USB drives.
Yeah. I need 2 channels left and right.
Well, it's like 8 because they'll have like all their different, but all the tables are standardized. So like you can go anywhere, and as long as you have like Pioneer everything, everyone, it's like all, or Serato, like everyone can just plug in, and you can just go anywhere in the world, and you're just like, well, I'm not DJing there unless they have 2 turntables and a microphone, and then you're good. And it's absolutely outrageous how much they get paid, and you can just go on the plane with your laptop. And like, honestly, so the most depressing thing was my buddy John Garabedian, again, sat me down, and I'm not going to tell you the DJ because I'm not going to shit on him this bad, but he had a special on Netflix, and he goes like, he starts off with like, I'm like the greatest DJ of all time. And that's not his accent, so I'm trying to protect him. And he's like, I'm also a musician. And you see him like terribly playing piano, horribly. Like and this guy just talks about how he's just the greatest like thing that's ever happened. And like he's talentless, other than he's just somehow hyped himself up, like, which was a certain talent, but like has nothing to do with anything musical in my mind. And then meanwhile, you have like a guy like Deadmau5, who has like literally a studio with $1 million in keyboards, like everything you could see. And he's like, yeah, I don't really know how to play any of them. And you're just like, these, or Steve Aoki is my favorite. This guy goes over at the end of his set in a raft with a birthday cake and throws the birthday cake in people's faces. They go, ah, with like rich people, like with drinking Dom Perignon. And he admits it's all a joke. I don't like this music. I don't like EDM.
But he's an entertainer. He's an entertainer. Like the thing is, people wouldn't make that money if they weren't somehow bringing that money in.
Absolutely.
So obviously we're getting away from the fact, we were talking obviously like even just the cover band versus DJ thing. Well, there's the DJ, quote unquote, like a wedding DJ versus the DJ, like that's basically just a celebrity that's pushing buttons essentially. And they might have gotten there with some sort of like musical thing, but at a certain level, like there's a huge disconnect between a DJ, producer, whatever. I don't know, though all the words become meaningless because they are songwriters, hopefully, of some kind. They're writing the music. So there's like DJ, like the guy that plays cover. It's like a cover band versus a original artist. And
well,
DJs,
you have Mixmaster Mike, who's like a real DJ, who's like a mixologist, who will take beats but make his own thing. You have a guy like Avicii, who was a producer, if you will, that wrote songs as a DJ for the EDM market and also would mix and match different things. And then you have a DJ like me, DJ Benny Goodman, playing chords corporate gig for like a golf company where I get to jump around on stage to House of Pain and get paid for it with the lasagna and chocolate milk.
Yeah, which is a sweet
well, the
gig
DJs and the DJs, you know, headlining these festivals. I mean, I have a lot of respect for them. I played with Kygo at Ultra and other festivals, and I mean, his value is drawn in from his songwriting. He's really a producer, you know, and he's done master classes.
The labels are weird. Like it doesn't necessarily.
Well, David Guetta is a genius songwriter. Like, I mean, he's from, is it Sweden? Where everybody
I thought he
there.
was French, but I'm not sure.
No. But David Guetta.
Well, you also said the turtle.
David
You said
Guetta.
you said the Turtles were from Boston in a previous podcast, which they are not. So
it's
Like,
Switzerland.
confidently incorrect.
Belle, that could be the title of this podcast, honestly.
No, but I mean, you're right. They're really songwriters and producers, and maybe a lot of them don't even like DJing.
He
you know,
is
I didn't really
French.
get to talk. Oh wow, I was right. Oh wow.
50 million, dude. This guy's 50 million. But like, here's the thing with David.
Years old? What? 50 million?
50 million sales.
Okay.
He's but you listen to like Nothing But the Beat, which is a great record by him, and like every song's a number one because he did like the Santana thing. He's like, okay, I don't sing, so I'll get Nicki Minaj, I'll get Usher, I'll get like literally an A-list on every one of his songs with a fucking hit. And instead of being 19 minutes long, which he did release another version with like all these remixes and stuff for like, you know, when you're tripping on ecstasy or whatever. But he had like 5 or 6 number one hits on that record. And I remember when I first started DJing that my buddy Dre behind the bar got mad at me. He goes, "Do you know anybody else other than David Guetta?" Because that's all, whenever I was nervous and didn't know what to play, because the biggest thing about being a DJ, and I imagine, Paul, you knowing being in a band, like how do you get good? You just got to know a shit ton of songs. You just got to know them. It's not even the fact that you could type them in. It's like, you got to know that you're going to go into Dr. Dre, and then you're going to go into AC/DC, You Shook Me All Night Long, and Sweet Caroline, and feel those people out, because those are crazy songs, but that's a wham, bam, slam if you're in the right place at Boston.
Yep.
We turned this episode into the three of us ranting over our actual guest.
I probably had something to say 20 minutes ago, but
Well, you need to interrupt Ben.
at this point I've been bombarded. Let's get back to me.
Yeah, let's get back to Paul, our actual guest.
We can
He's
do that.
appalled.
20-minute rant on DJ Benny Goodman here.
Right, exactly. We all got hijacked.
I like when he's
without knowing
mad,
it.
though. When he's mad, he tells better stories.
Well, okay, how can we trigger Paul then? What do we have to say to get you back
We
to
just did. That whole DJ
No,
story
but you
was a
triggered him
trigger.
into silence, though, not into like animation.
No, he's not silent.
No, it's fine. I have this you know, I just don't like the whole DJ thing, but it's fine. I mean, there's different levels to everything, and you can be creative and be a DJ and create art. You know, anything.
Why don't you like? Why? What's your animosity towards DJ?
I'm just not into canned drum beats. Canned drum beats offend me.
There's
It's
another
like,
title.
You know what you do? I can just push this button and, you know, you can go home. 30 years of learning an instrument and you can just go home because I get this button that just goes. But at the same time, you know, that's fine. That's just my viewpoint. Nobody gives a shit what I think anyway. And, you know, obviously a million kids love the shit out of EDM. And I'm the old fart sitting here like, oh, if I hear that fucking hi-hat cicada thing one more time, I'm going to fucking puke.
Are you referring to trap beats? Are you talking about trap beats?
Cicada thing.
I mean, I like trap beats if there's a fucking drummer playing them, but it's not. It's a fucking. I'm like.
What about drum pads? Like a drummer playing an electronic drum pad. How do you feel about that?
That's fine. You're giving a drummer work.
Yeah.
But can you separate the instrument, like the instrumentation of electronic drums versus regular drums? There's a lot of artists that implement both, right? So you have like, you know, you might have trap drums then as like, you know, the verse or something, then you have your drummer come in for a different flavor. And I'm thinking of this more from the producing side. Obviously as drummers, it's like, I could do that too, but.
Right. And it all depends what you're going for too. It's, you know, I mean, I just don't like all music. In fact, I don't like most music probably. So, I mean, the fact that I don't like stuff with electronic drums is neither here nor there to the music industry or anybody's, you know, it all depends what you're going for. You know, if you like that, then that's cool. I like old fart music with like, you know, where the tempo might go up and down a little bit, or the vocals might be a little bit, off pitch, or, everything's not snapped to the grid and exactly
more organic,
to be, but now kids these days are used to hearing that. So if they hear something that's not, overproduced, in my opinion, they're like, oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, that's true. You're kind of stuck with whatever you came of age to listening to.
Right.
So there's like that. And I feel like I feel somewhat fortunate that I kind of crossed the threshold, with like the 90s into the 2000s, where I had a little bit of like the super I went back and listened to like, I loved like Bush when I was like younger. And then I listened to them recently. I was like, oh wow, that's fucking terrible. That is out of key, out of time. That guitar, I'm not even sure if it's in tune.
Glycerine!
But like,
Glycerine!
but I didn't, had I 10 years later, I would have never have even heard that. I would have only heard the super, so I feel like I have like that little bit of like ability to like find the beauty in the disastrous tuning of things.
You asked earlier, why don't we release anything? Because I feel like it's more of an so Paul so this is the irony. So I tried convincing Paul to do everything to a grid, and even had him, like, my friend taught him how to snap things to a grid, and at one point he was correcting his own drums. And then I started thinking to myself, I kind of like the way they sounded better without the editing, once he finally learned how to do it. So everything that we do is not to a grid, other than he played to a click track, and like it's got to be a tight take. Like we may comp the drums in that, we might, usually it's just a solid take, but if there's a bad part, he might go, okay, take the fill from the previous take. But Hector, myself, and Paul, we all play without fixing anything. So I will sometimes, like when I played bass on his song, I played it's not that hard of a bass line, but to play it perfectly took me like 300 times. And that's why I have appreciation for someone like Michael Anthony, who can play Pound Cake, which is just 16 notes for like 5 minutes straight. But like to be able to do that flawlessly is fucking hard. And that's one thing that like playing with Paul has taught me, is like just the beauty and simplicity and how hard it is to play just without fixing it ever.
Yeah. I think it comes down more, or it comes less down to being perfectly on the grid and more being perfectly on the grid with each other, if that makes sense. There's nothing that stands out to me more, and this 100% comes down to the fact that it's my job to listen for this stuff, than like a downbeat where the bass and kick don't hit at the same time. Mm-hmm. That'll take me out of a song instantly. I go, that's all right. Well, that you have no power on your downbeat there. It sounds like a flam or some weird thing, and it doesn't matter if that was directly on the grid or not. It's a relative tightness between your rhythm sections, your guitars, your vocals. Like everything has to still fit into this pocket where everything plays together. And I don't necessarily think it has to be gridded. With a lot of modern music, gridding it makes it easier to build upon, especially when you're recording not in the same room together.
Right.
If everyone's adding their layers and one person isn't tight, then it makes it more difficult for everyone else who's playing to a click. So there's like definitely a give and take there. Sometimes you have to be edited to the grid because you weren't tight with the other people. Like that's just kind of how it works. And I'm not speaking to us in general. I'm speaking music in general. And there's definitely something about certain styles of music being robotically snapped to a grid that don't work. There's other styles of music that it's mandatory. It's 100. You can't release a pop song or a metal song right now that isn't locked to a grid, because like you said, the kids for the past 20 years have not heard anything different. So as soon as they hear something that's not tight, they go, this is bad. And you go like, well, I don't want them to think this is bad, so I got to like lock it in. That being said, with like a more rock and like even like grungy kind of vibe, you don't want that. You don't want it to sound super locked in to a metronome. You want it to sound like a band in a room, which means if you didn't record it live and there wasn't a producer to say that was a good take, and you're all recording it separately, but you're not all to a grid, it just sounds like you suck at playing live.
Right. Yeah, and like for me too, like the metal that I like, that I would emulate, is metal that was made before all of that, like Pantera and Metallica and Anthrax, where it's like.
But Pantera is one of the tightest fucking bands of all time.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to emulate that, if you're trying to emulate Pantera, and once again everyone's locked in those hits regardless of the grid, it sounds as tight as a gridded modern recording.
That's my belief, is that if it's not locking up, you don't need to snap it to the grid. You need to go home and practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Come back.
Unfortunately, no one does that.
Because they can all use technology.
Well, you can fix that, right?
Well, part of the art too, and one of the reasons I love Cory's ability to edit drums is because editing drums is an art, because there's a balance between making it the Terminator and devoid of human feel, and also having a little bit of feel. So, you can fix everything, but you can't fix lack of groove, in the sense that, like, unless you're completely faking it, like there's a thing about groove that, like, you really have to do it properly for it to be able to be fixed properly. And the thing is that you also have to make you have to answer a lot of questions of, should I do this or should I leave this alone? But I need to fix this. So, like, obviously we know when the bass and the kick drum don't lock in properly, it has to be fixed. But there's other little nuances you might do on your cymbals where it's like, I'm not going to fix that because there's a little bit of naturalness.
Yeah.
But that's the art of doing the drum fixing, in the sense, still sounds natural, but it's also tight to a grid.
Yeah, without getting too deep into the technical stuff, like when I do edit any instrument, I'm not just selecting everything and hitting quantize. I may start by getting everything relatively close to the downbeats and the just everything onto the at least close to where it should be. But then you got to listen and say, like, I would never do that to a drum fill or anything, because drum fills push and pull, and that's what gives them their energy. So if I were to take everything that like really drove you into that next downbeat and pushed it back, it would sound like it would almost sound like you're behind a beat with certain drum fills, even if they were perfectly on grid like that. So it's a matter of, it's a stupid thing, but use your ears. Everything in audio production is use your ears. Should I EQ it this way? Maybe use your ears. Should I edit it this way? Maybe use your ears. There's no one answer, but some genres and some styles have more of a strict guide you need to follow to have that sound. And that's the thing, is if a band comes into work at my studio, Ben's studio, whatever we're doing, and they're like, I want to be a radio rock band. I'm sorry, you're going to be tuned and timed and everything's going to be immaculate, and that's how it's going to go. If they're like, hey, this is my sound, this is what I want it to be a little loose, then great, awesome, let's do that. But it's as the editing and production is as subjective as the notes you choose in a lot of instances like that. And I think, that's why it's important. Like the stuff you're working on with Ben, I can't wait to hear it, because I know it's not going to sound like a radio rock song. It's going to sound like Paul Lourenco, and it's going to, like that's something unique to you. That's something that can be missing from a lot of people that come in now and they go, I want to sound like Nickelback. I want to sound like this band. I want to sound like that. And it's like, awesome, let's do that. I love when people say, I want to sound like this band, because that gives me a challenge as a producer to listen to that band and go, what are they doing that makes them interesting? I mean, as an artist, if I was releasing a song, I don't necessarily think I would go in with that attitude. I want to sound like this band particularly, but some people have a sound in mind where they're like, I want to be able to compete with artists in this genre. And there's a threshold you have to meet to do that. Whereas there's other artists that go like, I wrote this music. This is how it sounds in my head. Can you get it out there? And as a producer, you have to go, okay, yes, hell yeah. Let's make something new. Let's make something fresh. But yeah, make sure your kick and bass lock together. Otherwise, it sounds like shit.
That's the lesson of the story. Well, one thing I love about, speaking of being off the grid, one thing I love about classical music and what it taught me playing in orchestras is you're never on any grid. And especially when you're doing orchestral recordings, it's like solid take or not. You can't like isolate the oboe when there's overhead mics and fix something. And so much of it is learning how to tune your ear to like, what do I need to lock in with, even if it's a singular person on the other side of the room? What do I have to listen to that's going to help me play better and like kind of bring everything together like a magnet, like everyone just drawing the energy to like some sort of central location.
Something that you did that was incredible, and because we just recorded the Lost Symphony song. It's called The Beginning of the End. It's
called the Beginning of the End, not a beginning of the end.
The Beginning of the End. It's kind of an homage to Jason Becker in that the end of the beginning. So we're kind of in the same place. But when we went to record it, we recorded it in our friend Ernie's place, this beautiful room with tons of cool cars in it, and it had this beautiful ceiling, and just the way it was designed, it sounds incredible. But the thing that made this song so epic and it really gives me goosebumps in the mix is the fact that we got you, Mariko, and Susanna to all play. I'm trying to say it right. Shota was helping me. All playing at the same time. And I remember, like, we heard a bad note here and there, but we had to say, what did it sound like on the playback? Because, like, it's so good for 3 minutes and 7 seconds at a time that it's like, is that the take we're using? And, like, does it sound good with the song? Because the realistic truth is you're not going to be completely intonated perfectly with each other for 3 minutes and 7 seconds without dipping up and down just a little bit.
And it's interesting. So we're in the middle of the production of the song right now, which is kind of cool. So you guys, I assume someone's listening to this podcast. Hopefully you also enjoy La Symphony, but
check.
Literally, we are in the middle of the production. I know that Ben and Paul, you guys are getting together to do some more stuff, because the song has now grown since the initial, when we tracked the drums, the song was like, 8 minutes long? Now it's 12 minutes long. So, like, there's more going on.
That was my fault a little bit.
It's all good. It has now become something, beyond what it
we did an
originally
electronic
was.
beat that he needs to get rid of because he hates them. So we're like, we got the idea. So now, like, we want to get him angry because when he's angry, he plays better. But we actually did put fake drums in there to enrage Paul because that's how we get the fury.
They're placeholders. And when we put the electronic drums in there, the first thing I thought was like, wow, this needs to be real, not fake drums.
No,
so it'll be cool. But I'm excited to hear what you guys come up with, and it's going to be really interesting that this song here is going to be recorded over such a long period of time because people are going to be able to kind of check out the process a little bit, and I'm sure we'll do some behind the scenes videos of everything, and we'll have to actually talk about all the different elements that went into this, because this is not a standard single that a band is releasing. This has been a pretty epic journey, including international travel and other things.
Everything's always rushed in this band, and like I was looking, like I started sending out ideas in December, and that was also after talking about it for 2 months. So like we're now in April, right? Like it's gonna be May. It's May. It's May. We're in May now.
It's gonna be
5
May.
months. Yeah, it's 5 months into it, and we're still coming up with ideas, and we're still gonna have Paul come down and do another round of drums, even though most of the ideas are down, but now it's like the fun stuff, and it's one of those things where it's like we have no rush to do it any other way but the right way, because we've always been forced to do things under deadlines. And the truth is that like almost no bands get the leisure that we're getting right now to kind of just be like, all right, let's just take as long as it needs until we feel like it's right, because like that's the cool thing about Lost Symphony. It's always just been like, well, we get it done when it's ready.
It's true. So we are coming to the end of our second hour here with Paul, and once again,
maybe we should talk to Paul now.
Paul, who barely got a word in on his own second episode.
Paul inspired a thought. I think that was important. But seriously, we do appreciate you hanging with us. Obviously, this is a result of a last minute cancellation, so it was a huge help to chat with you. And it's also, I think, our funniest episode is our previous chat with you. So if you guys haven't checked out, actually make sure you go back and take a look at our previous episode with Paul. I'll put a link below in the description. But before we do go, we just got a couple minutes left. What do you want people to kind of be checking out? Where can people find you online? Not only for your art, but also the music stuff.
Well, my Instagram is just my name, Paul Lourenco. My Instagram has all of my artwork and a lot of videos that I post of me playing drums. Also, I have a YouTube that's also under my name. Like and subscribe. It's just me playing drums. I don't pontificate on any of my opinions or any of that jazz.
That's what this is for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you have a storefront for your art, like a place that people can buy it, or an online store?
Yeah, I do have. I think I got an Etsy store or something like that. I'll have to circle back and get those.
Shoot me the link. We'll put it in the description below.
Yeah. Well, he's also on lostsymphony.com.
Oh, there's a store in Plymouth, Massachusetts called 13 Court. And I have a whole section in there of all my original artwork that you can buy, prints, all kinds of different stuff.
Awesome.
If you're downtown Plymouth, Massachusetts, on vacation or whatever, 13 Court, the name is the address. It's at 13 Court Street. It's right downtown. Yeah. And other than that, online, I'm sure I got some links I can send you guys.
All right.
Some stuff that I make like $1 a pop on or something like that, Well,
we'll get you a few dollars.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I have to say, for everybody, if you really want to hear Paul's genius, it's go back and listen to chapters 1 through 3 of Lost Symphony. Go to lostsymphony.com. And first off, you can watch a lot of the videos where most of them are actually the takes of him actually playing. Because if it looks like he's playing, it's because he actually is playing it. And it's one of those things where, like, knowing that he just came in, like, sometimes he was going to be late to work, like, he was, like, running out. Like, these are all done haphazardly. And to think the level of genius and the crazy, like, the incredible work that you did, and also Cory did to make it sound huge and to edit it all together properly with everything. I think it's just a great testament to what we've done, because we even played with the guy from Testament. So, like, like, let me ask you this, Paul. This is important.
Practice what you preach, all right?
Yes. Great song. So with Lost Symphony, like, you've been in 100 bands. Did you ever think you were going to play with like 2/4, 1/2 of the Rust in Peace lineup of Megadeth?
No. I never thought.
Did you ever think you'd play with Skolnick?
What's that?
Did you ever think you'd play with Skolnick?
No. I never thought I'd play with Benny Goodman either.
DJ Benny Goodman.
He's like, that's not the Benny Goodman I'm talking about.
Not to be confused.
But that said, like, we've done a lot of things that, like, honestly, again, as I think we're all a little, not as much as Siobhán, who's like just a very successful musician, but Cory, myself, and Paul are different levels of jaded. But I think we have to say, with a lot of the things we all accomplished with Lost Symphony, that, like, we should be proud of that kind of stuff. Everything from your drum takes to the fact that, like, we got to play with some of our heroes that I certainly that I grew up with on my walls.
Yeah, most importantly, I hope that the people listening are proud of us too.
Yeah,
that's all I really
care about. Be proud of us.
You should be wicked proud of us, man.
We could use some pats on the back.
Yeah.
I want to pat myself on the back.
I used to say Ben was going to break his arm doing that, but Paul, thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
As always, and I can't wait to get this new track out eventually at some point this year. I'm sure it'll happen.
And release some of your other songs. We're waiting to hear them all.
Yeah, we'll get them together.
And for everyone else, so shit, Paul, you have to draw a self-portrait for this episode.
Oh, snap.
Oh, shit.
He probably already has that one down. He'll probably just, like, regurgitate something we won't even know.
This might be the hardest one yet.
No,
like the
he
self-portrait
has,
is the ultimate artistic.
No,
it has to be a
he's
current.
Done so many
has to be a current self-portrait.
in myself wearing this hat.
Yes, exactly.
So, because I didn't.
You should, dude. You should. That's absolutely what you should draw yourself wearing exactly what you're wearing right now.
Yeah. Yep. For everyone listening and watching, make sure you check out Paul's art and the music he's putting out, and he's going to continue to put out. And stay tuned for more Lost Symphony. Check out 2020-d.com. You can buy a shirt that Paul drew. It's got a picture of the three of us, the hosts there. It's weird, but you can buy it. It's not against the rules.
He does all the tunes of our show, if you didn't get that. Like, every single show that has a cartoon, we send it to Paul at, like, the day after we record it, and he basically just draws it and sends it back to us, and they always look ridiculous in the sense that they just, like, how did he do that? How did he just look at that picture and just make that look like that?
It's a talent.
It's true. And before we draw this on any longer, goodbye. You've been 2020'd.
You've been 2020'd.
I'm hearing all this jazz being remastered. And it was magical. Like, there was one session I heard, and they were remastering John Coltrane. And it sounded like he was in the room. They had it set up.
Wow.
So it sounded like a recording session. And I knew the name John Coltrane, but I had just never been, like, clobbered over the head with his music. And hearing it like that, it was the first time that I felt anything like when I first heard Van Halen very loud doing Eruption. It was like that kind of thing, like, whoa. You know, it was intense, it was spiritual, it was virtuosic, it was technical. It was going so many places. And I'm hearing this, and I can't see behind the door. And I like peeked down, I gotta know, who is that?